I'm here to give a little bit of information. And when you come out and do a clinic, it's kind of like, all right, what do you cover? What do you not cover? Okay? Because I could come out here for 8 hours and we couldn't cover the whole game. So I am willing at the end, if any of you want a little bit more about some specifics if you're working with older kids. What's the footwork on turning a double play? How do I make the tag play correctly? What's the proper footwork for a relay man? What is a double relay? Can you talk a little bit about catching? I'd be glad to stay a little bit and chat with you on some advanced information because I was a college coach for 9 years. So thank you for being here. In just a minute, I'm going to show you how to set up a clipboard. My clipboard is set up a certain way. My clipboard is my office. Every coach in our camp has a clipboard. And we actually have a prize at the end of every week in camp for the coach with the most organized clipboard. Literally. And that includes the rubber bands, the pen, the neatness of the paper, the organization of the paper, the drills, etc. The coaches show up every day at our camp over 30 years. They come and say hi to Grandpa Tom. That's what everybody calls me. It started years ago. I kind of embraced it. I'm 66 years old, but hopefully I don't look like it. And they come and say hi to Grandpa Tom. Before COVID, they gave me a hug. If you wonder why they had to give me a hug, like it was mandatory, they had to give Grandpa a hug. Can you figure out why? Why my coaches had to give me a hug when they showed up? I want to smell them. I want to smell them. I want to make sure that there wasn't alcohol coming out of their neck, or they didn't smell like cigarettes. We kind of laugh, but it's true. I'm in the youth business. Plus, I just want to let them know that they were welcome to be there. Then they went over and picked up their set of drills. And if you came to camp and you see the older kids, the younger kids, 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and the drills look very similar, and you'd say, how in the world, Tom, do you do that? Well, they'd have pictorials of the drills, and I gave you some pictures that we're going to look at later. And there was actually a key. A square was a base, a triangle was a cone, little circles were the kids, the X was the coach. And one of the things we should all know that when we talk to kids, their backs to the sun, we're looking at the sun. See, I didn't worry about it. Look, where's the sun at? There wasn't the sun. But I didn't want you guys looking in the sun. That's one of the mistakes we make. Kids don't pay attention, but they're the ones looking in the sun. Also, when you do a drill, the kids should be shoulder to shoulder, not behind each other. Because if they're lined up behind each other, you're asking for problems. But if they're shoulder to shoulder, then you can see everybody, and everybody can hear your instruction. I wear sunglasses almost every day when I'm working with kids because I don't want them to know where my eyes are. I can literally be looking here, talking here, but I'm looking over there, looking at the kids, making sure they're all paying attention. One of the big problems with practice planning and practices is ratios, getting it down to 2 to 1, 3 to 1 so that the kids are staying active. Baseball is naturally a sedentary sport. You know what sedentary means, right? Like we're sedentary right now. We're not exercising, we're not moving. That's one of the difficult things about baseball is making it active. That's why I will tell you the truth, in our camp, before the pandemic, we had to play over the line because they would not let us. We were running a camp during the pandemic. I don't know if you know that. But everything shut down March of 2020. In June of 2020, the city of Long Beach gave us permit. Little League was shut down. High school baseball was shut down. College baseball was shut down. There was no College World Series, and the city of Long Beach gave us a permit.
Yeah, we knew that because you were the only one.
Yeah, we were the only one who got one.
Northwest Downey knew that.
Yeah. Let me tell you the steps we had to go through. I had to meet with the city of Long Beach, Parks and Recs, for a 3-hour meeting and show them the drills and how we did it. They took it to the health department took it to the city attorney, and those two had to sign off on it. And then the parks came out every day and supervised and worked with us, and we had 60 kids instead of 250 kids. No team could eat with any team. We couldn't play games. We had to wipe off the bats. We had to wipe off the balls. The coaches had to carry spray bottles. It was crazy. 7 pages of protocol. And we decided to play over the line because we couldn't play games. Guess what? With the younger kids, we're still playing over the line. You know why we play over the line? Kids get more bats. They got to play defense. They know how to catch a fly ball. They know how to catch a ground ball. And you can work with them on the swings, and it's more moving. And to be honest with you, the kids love it. Now, with the older kids, we do something different. We don't play games. We do instructional field work. And if you came inside, you'd be amazed at what we're able to do with the kids teaching. So I've kind of gone away from games because, you know why? The kids have gotten very lazy and very sedentary. If you ask me how kids change, let me tell you how they change. Number one, it's hard to get them to move their feet. If you have trouble getting kids to move their feet, they don't want to do it. You know, the way the kids have changed, their attention spans about that short. If that. And the third thing is they think they're king. Nobody wants to listen anymore. Nobody wants to follow directions anymore. I cannot encourage you enough to have your practices and your games very disciplined. If your kids ever come to our camp and they don't listen, they're dumb and dumb. They line up straight. They run from station to station. And the kids fight us a little bit. And then by Wednesday, they're loving it. And by Friday, they want to come another week because they're learning to enjoy play again. We also have free time, which I'll talk about. So let's go to the handout that I gave you, okay? Let's go to the handout that I gave you. The handout says Youth Baseball Coaches Clinics, and I want to turn to the front page if I can, okay? Now, if you turn to the front page, it says, what are the 4 steps to improving? Now, I have to decide when I come out to a clinic, how much technique do I get into and how much philosophy do I get into? And over the years, I've decided to do more philosophy, how to coach, because you can go Google, how do I properly field a ground ball? How do I properly catch a fly ball? Okay, I mean, you can Google that. And most of the websites are going to have pretty good information for you. So, let's talk about what are the 4 steps to an athlete improving. Everybody see where I'm at? All right, the first one says they must have what, everybody? It's a circle the word desire. Now, can you imagine what would happen in the schools of America if all of a sudden the kids walked through the door and they had more desire than they have now? We want to build the best schools, the best computers, the best teachers. We're going to be honest with you. We can build the best environment for the kids, but if they don't have desire, we're wasting our time. And if you could ever create a drink that was legal, FDA approved, and it doubled kids' desire academically, you'd be a multi-billionaire. The biggest problem in schools in America is kids just want to learn. They don't have the desire they used to have. So the kids got to have desire. Number 2, they got to get where there's information. Circle the word information, would you? And put next to information you. That's your job. It is not your job for kids to have desire. Now, you can help motivate them to have desire, but at the end of the day, they got to want to get better. And if the athlete does not want to get better, your information you're giving them isn't going to sink in like it is with someone else. So if I'm coaching kids, I would tell them right away, the improvement is up to you, not me. I would have a meeting with my parents one of the first days. I'd say, you know what? Your child improving is up to your child. It's not up to me. I'm going to provide information. Your child improving is up to him or her. And I would put that responsibility right on their back right away. I'm a big guy on accountability in our camp. If 2 kids get sent to me for a timeout because they're pushing each other, they sit there until they can each admit what they did. They can shake hands and apologize to each other and then go back and apologize to their coach. And the coach knows if he comes there and doesn't apologize, he comes right back for a longer timeout. And if one kid's willing to be accountable and the other one isn't, the accountable one gets to go until the other guy can accept responsibility. Because I believe in teaching responsibility right away. So I would put the improvement right on the kid's back. The third one says blank to instruction begins with an L. What do you think is going to go there? Yeah, listen to instruction. So number 1, they got to have desire. Number 2, they got to have information. That's your job. Number 3, they got to listen. And out to the side of that, let's put the 3 steps to listening. Would you write down the 3 steps to listening? I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I would share it with the kids right away. You see parents in the store every once in a while, and they're asking their child to do something, and their child's not doing it, and they're getting frustrated with their child, and they say to the child, would you please listen? Well, they heard you, Dad. If you ask your child to do something and they don't do it, let me tell you something. They heard you say it. So listening involves 3 steps. Write these down. Number 1, hearing. You got to hear what's said. So let's try that. Let's see if you guys can hear. Just say what I say. Repeat after me. The sky's blue.
The sky's blue.
All right, you heard me. But that doesn't mean you're listening yet. That all it means is you heard me. The second step to listening is analyzing. Analyze. If you can't spell analyze, put evaluate. If you can't spell evaluate, just Google it. So you got to hear, you got to evaluate. This is very important, and then you got to choose. That's the third step. You got to choose. And I share with the kids in camp that there's 3 steps to listening. You got to hear it, you got to analyze, you got to evaluate, and then you got to choose. For instance, I tell my kids in camp, we run over Hartwell Park. We do it because it's a big park, it's very visible, et cetera, et cetera. I have nothing to do with the league there. I'm not tied in with any one league. I've never done that. I'll come out and do something for anybody for free, I appreciate just the opportunity to come out. But at Hartwell Park, there's a big street called Carson. You guys know where Carson is.
Yes.
And I'll have 240 kids that have a sound system. 240 kids, a lot of kids will come. And I'll tell the kids, hey, I would like for you guys to go run out into Carson without even looking. And they'll look at me like, I'm not doing that, Grandpa. I'm like, exactly, don't. You guys just did what I asked you to do. You heard me say run out into Carson. You evaluated right away, well, I could get hit by a car, so you chose not to do it. Okay? Now, everything I say, you can throw in a trash can if you want when I'm done. But then that leads to the next step in my camp. Don't fire me. But I tell them, you know, sometime when you're 12, 13, 14, or 15, somebody's going to ask you to go smoke a joint. You're going to hear them, hey, let's go smoke some weed together. Then you're going to say, that can be dangerous. That can be bad for me. My parents are going to get upset, et cetera, et cetera. So you chose not to do it. But if the coach asked you when the drill's done, hey, everybody help pick up the balls, you heard the coach say, help pick up the balls. You got to choose to do it because it's the right thing to do because the coach needs help. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So when a kid's not doing what you want, they're just choosing not to do it. They heard you. They heard you loud and clear. By the way, if you want my opinion, kids are screaming for discipline. They're absolutely screaming for it. And when they get in an environment where it's fair, it's honest, there's discipline, there's energy, they will thrive in it. That's what we do in our camp. We just got throw down bases, grass. We teach baseball, and it's structured, and it's organized, and it's disciplined. And kids are screaming for it. And then the fourth step is got to practice, practice, practice. You ever heard the phrase practice makes perfect? Is that true?
No.
And I say this to you coaches, please listen. If your kid goes to the batting cage today and he takes 100 swings, and in the 100 swings, he drops his hands when he strides, and he goes up with the front elbow, which is wrong. You guys know that. Did he get better or did he get worse? He got worse. Because he was continue to reinforce a bad habit. Now, I was a college coach for 9 years, a head coach at Azusa Pacific, El Camino, played at USC. And a mentor of mine, who happened to be my father, Joe Hick, told me, he said, Tom, when you start coaching college, he said, for every year a kid's been doing something wrong, it'll take you a month to change it. So if he'd been doing something wrong since he was 12 and you got him when he was 18, it's going to take that first half of his whole freshman year to get him to change that habit. So you're better off practicing the right thing than the wrong thing. Now, if your kid goes to the batting cage tomorrow and he takes 50 swings and drops, and he takes 50 swings and starts keeping them up, did he get better or worse? Got better because he started to change the habit. Does that make sense? So it's very important that we practice the right fundamentals. Does that make sense?
Yes.
By the way, let me just throw this out while it's on my mind. Did you know only 5% of the kids that play travel ball play Division I baseball? Yeah. Only 5% of the kids that play travel ball play Division I baseball. I'll just leave that out there for you guys. By the way, if a kid can play and he's got talent, they're going to find him no matter where he's at. There's too many eyes out there. If the kid can run and he's got arm speed, he's got bat speed, somebody's going to find him. There's just too many eyes out there. It's easy to see. You ever seen a kid that threw harder than everybody else? You're like, whoa. You got a little faster bat than anybody else? You're like, oh. Run a little faster than everybody else? You go, ooh, that kid stands out. You saw it right away. Everybody else is going to see it. Okay, section number 2, it says the top 6 qualities of a youth baseball coach. You guys still with me?
Yep.
Guys, is this good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 1. Now, if I was going to give you marching orders, here's the 6 of them. Number 1. Ooh, I like this bag. It says creates a blank environment for the children. Begins with an F. What's that?
Fun.
Fun. Could you write that in and circle it? Now, I haven't been around Little Leagues quite as much the last few years as I was before. I'm 66, and Jack Woodbury, my business partner, does a lot of the advertising online. And I had sciatica last December, so I was in bed for about, you ever had it? Got my 6 weeks, yeah, it's brutal. But let me tell you this. Most leagues still, as the kids sign up at 5, 6, and 7, you'll have more kids 5, 6, and 7 playing than 11, 12, and 13. The attrition rate is really fast. Did you know Sports Illustrated did a study years ago? The average life expectancy, you might write this down somewhere, the average life expectancy of a youth baseball player is 2 years. So if your child If your son, and that's probably why you're out here, your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter, great reason to be out here, okay, is because you have a family child that you want to help coach. Okay, I'm not sure I'd put my kid today in any dugout where I wasn't there as Grandpa Paul, because there's a lot of, I see some crazy stuff going on in dugouts. But the average kid is only playing 2 years. So if your son or your grandson played 5, 6, 7 years, you beat the life expectancy. Did you know there's a greater chance academically there is athletically today? Let's just count. UCLA has 1 shortstop. USC has 1 shortstop. Long Beach State has 1 shortstop. Cal State Fullerton has 1 shortstop. Pepperdine has 1 shortstop. And you take the 10 universities playing here, and there's 10 shortstop jobs. You know how many positions and spots there are in the science departments of those schools? The English department? The history department? The odds are greater that your child can succeed academically, numerically, than they can athletically. Do you understand that? You understand how small the pyramid gets? How small it really gets? So we got to make it fun for the kid. We got to make it fun. It'll get serious enough when they get to high school. It'll get really serious when they get to college, if they're lucky enough to play that long. So we got to make it fun. So I would say to you, if you're coaching fall ball this year and you got like 11 kids on your team, are all 11 playing in the spring? Now, how many of those 11 are playing in the spring? And if you got all 11 playing in the spring, you did a great job. You know why? They're going to come back. It was fun. But you know that if the average life expectancy is only 2 years, you know I got to replenish the camp every couple of years? So you know about half our kids are returners and half our kids are new kids? I don't take it personal. Kids aren't playing real long. Plus, some kids don't like the structure. I'm like, oh. By the way, kids carry their bags to and from my kids. I've actually gone over and just said, Mom, please. And I left the bag off her shoulder and put it on the kid's back. Then moms and dads don't carry bags in my camp. They might the first day, but not the third day. The mom's like, thank you, Grandpa. All right, number 2, emphasizes teamwork and sportsmanship. Would you circle teamwork and sportsmanship? Where on God's earth is that gone? I can talk all day about that. But we got to emphasize teamwork. We got to emphasize sportsmanship. Number 3 is a good role model. Lighthouse of change. Would you circle the word lighthouse? Because I really want to focus in on this. And I can do philosophy for an hour, but I'm trying to keep this moving because I do want to get to practice planning, but I can't come out and do clinics and not talk about this stuff. Guys, if the divorce rate is truly 50%, then half the kids on your team, at least half the kids on your team doesn't have mom and dad in the house. And I tell my coaches, I said, do you understand the kind of role model you are? And some of my coaches don't understand until Friday when the kids get in line to get their t-shirts signed by that coach because they idolize that coach. I'm not into the ocean. I grew up in the shark generation, Jaws. So I don't put my toe in the water very much. So if you want to give me a great present, said, Tom, I'm saying you and your wife on a cruise somewhere, I'd say thanks, but no thanks. Honestly, because the water scares me. But if I understand the water right, a lighthouse, if you can't see, the lighthouse is where the boat heads towards for safety. Is that correct? I'm asking you to be a lighthouse that you're safe for the kids. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if you're only going to have kids in sleep for 2 years, let's leave the kids with some life lessons. And if they can learn how to field a ground ball, that's great, but let's leave them with some life lessons. Let's talk about what's important. You might write this down somewhere. Just give me a little assist when you announce it. But you know the 6 words I preached to my kids this summer, the 6 words? I said, here's 6 words I want you to start using at home. And I'd suggest you write these down. Because it's okay if you repeat this. Because we got to start doing it. Here's the 6 words I asked kids to start using at home. And it was on a microphone. It was in front of the parents on Friday. These words need to be said in the homes of America. There's 6 words. Here they are. Please. That's 1 word. Thank you. That's 3 words. I love you. That's 6 words. Those words need to start being used in the homes of America. Please, thank you, I love you. Lighthouse of change. I cannot ask you enough to talk to these kids about life besides just baseball. If your child came to me and he'd been in my camp and he ran and said, Grandpa, how are you doing? I'd say, hi, how are you doing? You know the first question I'd ask him? I wouldn't say how the game goes. What was the score? How many hits you get? How's your season going? First question I ask him is say, how's school going? Good, Grandpa. I'd say, okay, what's your favorite class? You know what the boys say? Math or recess? That's their answer. And if they say recess, I say, don't count. That doesn't count. I will ask them, how's school going? I'll ask them what's their favorite subject. And if they're old enough, I'll say, what's your grade point average? I don't even give a rip how the game went. And I'll say, give me 5 and I'll walk off because I want them to focus on academics. So think about being a lighthouse of change. How are you impacting the kids? Because they need guidance, they need leadership. And every practice, every time I had the kids, tell stories every once in a while. I'll tell stories out there, can't. I'll take 5 minutes to tell a story. And the coach is like, Grandpa, take 30 minutes, man. We'll just take a break on the bucket and let you talk. But I tell life stories out there. And you know what? Kids today don't get to sit down with Grandma and Grandpa and hear about how life used to be. We don't sit around the table and just talk about life with children anymore. You go out to dinner and you watch people eating dinner. You've seen it. Hopefully it's not you. And you're out to dinner and there's 3 kids, mom and dad, and the 3 kids are on their electronics. And mom and dad might even be on their electronics. Try this one time. Take your kids out to dinner and say, everybody put their cell phones on the center of the table. First one that picks it up pays for dinner. Oh. Try that. Think about it. In my class at school, I teach college kids. I'm not a cell phone policeman. They have to have their cell phone face down. I tell them you can have it on your desk. And if there's an emergency, just pick up your phone, point at it, step out, come right back in. But the cell phone's face down. And I say if the cell phone's not face down, then it'll go on the table over there because you can't keep it face down. Because I have mine on the table too, so if there's an emergency, my wife can reach me. So I can't have mine face down, and they can't have theirs out. Lighthouse of change. Number 4, teaches failure management. My friends, we got to help these kids handle failure. We got to help them understand that the game of baseball is based upon failure. Why they give the hitter 3 strikes? Because it's hard to hit the first one. And you know what's amazing? They give the pitcher 4 balls. You know what that tells me? It's harder to throw a good pitch that's not hittable than it is to hit a pitch. Can you imagine right now if they said next year in the major leagues, not only is there no shift, not only is there a clock, but the hitter gets 1 strike. I would bet you we would have at least 8 to 10 perfect games. We'd probably have about 25 to 30 no-hitters if the batter got 1 strike. Because you know if the pitcher hits the black with his best pitch, you're out. In Angel Stadium, Dodger Stadium, the pitcher throws his best pitch on the black, the corner, on the knees, wherever he wants it, the batter's out. You're out. And big league hitters will tell you they only get really 1 good pitch to hit. You ever seen a guy swing and it's a hittable pitch and he fouls it back and he gets out and goes, that was my pitch. I'm probably not going to get another one. Now I got to go to war and hope I can fight something off until I get another one. So we got to help them understand that baseball is a game of failure. The last time I looked at the top 10 hitters, and I think it was the American League, the National League, there was only 6 guys hitting over 300. Where in the world can you make $17 million in Dodger Stadium and hit .217 and play center field? $17 million. We'll never see that kind of money. This game's hard to play. And the kids need to understand it's hard to play. So we got to help them handle failure. And I tell the kids in my camp, you know, Grandpa's learned more through failure than he has through success. And I tell them stories. I say, you know, Grandpa's got 4 kids, but Grandpa's been divorced and remarried. I failed at my first marriage. I don't tell them how I failed, but I tell them how I learned from it. And because they all meet my wife now, we're celebrating 28 years, and I tell them how important my wife is to me and the things I do when I get home to keep that marriage alive, which you should do when you get home to build your family. So I tell my kids, if I go in and I'm nasty and mean to my wife, what's going to happen? They all say, well, she's not going to like you. I said, that's right. So why don't you go home and be nice to mom and dad? Then I tell the kids, you know, if your mom and dad take you to Disneyland, I got a microphone, I'm talking 200 kids. We've got to touch these kids' lives. And I say to them, if you go to Disneyland, you and your brother and sister and your parents, and all you did for 10 hours was complain about what ride you didn't get to go on, what ride you want to go on, what you didn't get to eat, and all you did was complain for 10 hours. Do you think you're increasing the chances they'll take you again or decreasing? They're decreasing. So if you want to go to Disneyland again, why don't you be nice? Why don't you be kind? Why don't you be giving? Why don't you be thankful? And your mom and dad will say, wow, that was a great day, because they probably spent $600 on you. Number 5, provides equal participation. Now, let's understand, I'm not saying equal participation is everybody gets to pitch the same number of innings, everybody gets to catch the same number of innings. I'm not saying that. Because as we get older, that becomes a safety issue. With 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, I think we should rotate position. I'm huge on that. By the way, if you really want my opinion, if you were going to change youth baseball, we wouldn't pitch till we're 10 years old. We'd use machines everywhere in America. You know why? We'd save arms. Number 2, everybody get base hits. The score would be 25-23. The pitching machine doesn't have an ego. And we start learning how to play defense because the ball would get hit. And we learn how to run the bases because you ran when the ball was hit. It's like, oh, that's not baseball. I don't care. The kids love fun. When we play over the line in camp, when we play games, over the line, you get 2 pitches, put the ball in play or out. Let's keep it moving, 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 let's keep it moving. Now, equal participation means, especially in practice, everybody gets equal time to become better. Does that make sense? Okay. Number 6, organize with practices and games. Okay, we're going to talk about that later. All right, now, right now it is 10:03, so I'm going to skip to the next page. All right, I'm going to skip to the next page. How we doing? We doing all right, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Have I got you to think a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 66 years old. I would have stopped camps at about 60, but a wonderful man named Jack Woodbury came into my life. Jack Woodbury is 20 years old. He's married. He's a teacher. He teaches at Carmenita Middle School, and people think he's my son. And he's a 60-year-old man stuck in a 28-year-old body. He actually likes to hang out with a 66-year-old man who's 20 years old. Because you know what? I got done coaching baseball years ago. I'm going to tell you why I do camps is to touch kids' lives. I tell the kids the first day of camp, I said, Grandpa's after your soul, gentlemen. I'm after your heart, and I'm after your soul. And I'm going to chase it. And I'm going to get after it. And these other guys are going to teach baseball, but I'm after your soul. I'm after changing you. I'm after getting you to think. You know the 9 hardest words in the English language? 9 hardest words? You ever heard that? 9 hardest words to say. You can write this down if you want. Here they are. I was wrong. Most of you get stuck on those 3. I was wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I was wrong. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I encourage you, gentlemen. In my camp, if a kid curses, I call his mom and dad, tell them the exact word he used with the kid sitting there. And tell mom and dad and the kid if he uses it again, he's out of camp and you don't get your money back. You know how many complaints I've had on that? If you bully my camp and you don't stop it, you get kicked out. No refund. If you're racist in my camp, you're kicked out right away because I can't change that. I've only had to dismiss 1 kid, and I had over $1,000. It was the first day of camp, and I called the mom. I said, we have a problem with the kid. Oh, I can't believe he's doing that. I'm like, really? Really? Mom, I wonder where he's learning that from. I had to dismiss the kid from the camp. I wasn't going to get that chance. All right, let's talk about hitting. Number 1 is blank. Now, I want to do is spend some time on hitting. I was going to talk about throwing right and catching right. We may get back to that, but I do want to talk about practice time. Because I heard some of your schedules today. As I was watching you walk in, I kind of heard your time limit. So I'm thinking, okay, let's get this done. All right. Everybody wants to teach hitting, and I think everybody can teach hitting. I grew up in a house. My father was Joe Hick. He died at 63 from cancer, colon cancer. He was in 7 Hall of Fames when he died. All right. And I grew up. There's a reason why I'm telling this. I grew up to Super 8 film. You guys even remember Super 8? And my dad back in the 60s was video film his hitters on little Super 8. And then he would sit in the den and analyze the hitter. And then he would meet with his team, put it on a big screen, he'd analyze everybody. with everybody sitting there. So when I played for him in 1975 at Long Beach City College before I went to SC, he would video all of us, and then in the Winter League on Saturdays, there was a classroom down the right field corner, and everybody'd show up, and each guy got told what he was doing wrong and what he was doing right and how to change right in front of everybody. You talk about a little bit of pressure? When I would work with kids in lessons years ago, I did them years ago. When I worked with kids in lessons, if you brought your kid to me at a cage and he was hitting, I would watch him take at least 3 rounds, maybe 4. I'd want to see 40 swings before I said a word. And if you brought your kid to me and he's hitting, and I push the button, he's hitting, and he pushed the button, he's hitting, and I'm not saying anything, you're looking at me like, I paid you to just stand here and watch? And what I was doing was I was checking all these different things in his swing, his stance, his stride, his hands, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was making a mental list of what he did right and a mental list of what he did wrong, what he needed to change. Are you with me? So after about 40 swings, I had that kid totally dissected, every part of his swing. Now, when I started talking to him, do you think I told him the things he did wrong first or the things he did right? Right. Yeah. I'd say, you know what, young man? There are 2 things you're doing really good, and I really like them, and I'm really proud of you, and here they are. Then I'd send him back into hitting it. 2 more rounds. Then I'd pull him out. I'd give him another good thing he was doing. I said, man, I like a lot about your swing. Here's another thing you're doing good. The kid's starting to think, hey, I like this guy. And it's like a flower. He's starting to blossom. And then the last 8 minutes of the lesson, I would pull him out and say, now here's one thing you could do to help yourself get better. And he was all ears at that point because he thought I was going to attack him right. And then it would always take another lesson or 2 to really get it completely covered. And I wasn't trying to make money off of that. I just couldn't get it done in 30 minutes. Does that make sense? So I was trying to build rapport. And then the other thing I did was when I would talk with a kid, and I'm trying to help you as a coach, not that I'm perfect, but when a kid came out of the cage and I'd say, all right, here's what I want you to work on. And I would say what I want him to do, like, I need your stride to be a little bit shorter. Or when you take your stride, you're landing open. I'd talk about that. Then I would say to him, what did Tom just ask you to do? And the kid would repeat it back to me. And he listened to me. He wouldn't use the same words I used. But I listened to what words he used, and I'd use his words. I don't care if he called it a stride, a step, whatever it was, I would use the word that made sense to him. Because I was working one-on-one. Now, if I was working with the whole team, we'd all call it stride. But when I was working one-on-one, sometimes I wanted to use his verbiage so that I could connect with it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so the first thing, number 1, is stride. Stance. Stance. Now, before I get too far into hitting, the reason I told you about the Super 8 thing is because in order to help a kid improve, if this makes sense, you have to watch the different parts of his swing, not the entirety of the swing at once. Does that make sense? Like, so when I was watching a kid, I would really just isolate on the front foot about 6 or 7 times. How long is he striding? Is he landing on the ball of the foot? Is he landing open? Is he striding in? Is he striding away? So I was dissecting his stride. Then after I dissected his stride, I would watch the back heel. What's happening with the back heel when he swings? And I watched that about 5 or 6 times. Does that make sense? Then 5 or 6 times I'd watch his hands. Where did he have his hands positioned? What were they doing when he strided? How was he holding the bat? Was he holding it deep in his hands? Was he holding out in the fingertips? There's a lot of different things I'm dissecting. You know, one of the most common things I ever got from mom and dad was, particularly the dads, Mom is, I just want my son to have a good time. Dad's like, I want him to have more power hit and runs, right? Son. You know, the most common problems I had with kids? Not having enough power, not hitting the ball hard, they're too close to home plate. There are more kids too close than too far away. Ask your kids, does the bat ever sting in your hand? And if they say yes, it's because they're not hitting on the barrel. Let's back up for a minute. I'm going to get into techniques in a minute. But this is the aluminum bat generation. You know when the aluminum bat came out? I did. The summer of '74. Why? Because I was a senior at Milliken High. We always used wooden bats. And that summer playing Connie Mack, the aluminum bat showed up. Wow, it was a game changer. Did you know the barrel on aluminum bat's bigger than it is on a wooden bat? So kids don't really know if they're hitting on the sweet spot or not, because they don't know. The only way to know is if the bat stings in their hand. So, stance. Now, there's a lot of different ways to teach hitting, but if I had a kid who had never done anything, this is what I would do. Number 1, feet shoulder width apart. Why don't you guys get up out of your chair? You're not riding right now. Ah, Tom, don't make it get up. Come on now. All right, now look down at your feet. Now, are your feet a little bit wider than your shoulders? Or at least the width of your shoulder? Look, now get the nose rings in. What does number 2 say? Knees slightly what? Bent. So bend them just a little bit. Now, become a catcher. That's not what we want. Come on now, participate. You won't die. Feet shoulder apart, knees slightly bent. Why? Let me ask you a question. If the kid asks you why, and they do it respectfully, is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's a great thing. So the kid ever says, Coach, how come you want our feet wide? I don't understand. Would you please, whatever his name is, Sam, Johnny, Pete, say, Johnny, that is a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. Then you're encouraging kids to ask more. If they ask questions and they do it respectfully, that is a good thing. You know that? You know what teachers like? Classes that ask questions. You know I like as a coach doing quiz? Guys who are paying attention. Guys whose eyes are alert. Guys who are listening. So you can tell whether someone's in sync, whether they don't have to talk. I can just tell by looking at your eyes that you guys are engaged with me. And I told Ernie, I said, I don't care if it's 6 guys, as long as 6 guys engaged. If I got 40 guys, they're all looking at their cell phone like, what is this idiot tonight? I'd rather go have breakfast with my wife. So you guys are focused, you're paying attention. I like that. This is good. This is fun for me. So why do we want our feet a little bit wider than the shoulders? Why? So our stride is what? Short. Why do we want our knees slightly bent? So we're on the balls of our feet. Now, everything you do in sports is on the balls of your feet. You shoot a basket on the balls of your feet. You tackle someone. You shoot pool on the balls of your feet. You do everything on the balls of your feet. Now, the balls of your feet are the inner front part. Now, we are not ballerinas. Everybody become a ballerina. That's not what we're doing. Now, would you get your feet shoulder width? Bend your knees slightly. Now, do you feel your weight on the balls of your feet? Now, straighten your knees. Feel it go to your heels? Bend your knees. Go to your heels. Now, if the kid's never had any instruction, I'll tell you what he'll do. If he's had no instruction, here's the kid in the stance. Feet together, legs straight. That's a kid who's had no instruction. Right away, if I walk up the field and I see a kid in the batter's box and his feet are close together and his knees are straight, I say in my head, he's had no instruction. So everybody do that. Now, let me tell you why they don't want to do the other thing, because they have to what? Begins with W. Work. Get your feet apart, bend your knees. Feel how your legs engage now? Put them together, straight. This is why they don't want to do it. Now, if I had a bunch of young kids, 7-year-olds, that's learning the game, I'd do this drill with them right here. I would do this, so they can feel it. Okay? Go back. Do it. Go back. Now, listen to me carefully. See if this can make sense. I think it's important for an athlete to be able to feel when they're doing it wrong, so they can self-correct. Does that make sense? See, as soon as the kid realizes and can feel that his arm's down, he now knows he's doing it right, and when he feels he gets it up, now he knows what that feels like, so he can self-correct. Does that make sense? Okay? So the kid should feel wrong, so everybody feet together, knees straight. Now do it right. That's correct. So they got to feel it. Okay? C, what does C say? Feet what? Parallel. Like this. Now go ahead and put your feet like that. That's wrong. Now why? Because this hip's already starting to open, and if the foot is pointed back to the catcher, you can't rotate that back heel. If you're going to do anything incorrect, have this foot pointed this way a little bit towards the plate so you can pop that heel and get that hip open. Does that make sense? But I don't like the front foot open in the stance because you're already letting your hips go. Does that make sense? Okay. D says chest upright. Now, chest upright simply means take your chest and put it about 90 degrees to the ground. Chest upright. Now, bring it way down here. Look at how your eyes change. Bring it up here. So I think it's important not only for level swing, but I think it's important for vision. E says hands in the what? Power zone. Now, where is that, my friend? The power zone for me is between your shoulder, your chin, and your ear hole. It's right in here somewhere. Now, everybody get their feet shoulder width, bend your knees slightly, feet parallel, chest upright, and take your hands and put them somewhere by your ear, your shoulder, your neck, right in this zone here. Kind of draw a little circle with your hands. Now, everybody relax and put your hands together though, and push them out from your body. What happened to your front elbow? Straighten, is that good or bad?
Bad.
If I'm mad at you on the playground and I'm gonna punch you and I go here and then there, you're gonna duck out of the way. But if I go from here to there, it's really fast. So if I straighten my front arm, does it make me faster or slower?
Slower.
Slower, way slower. So I become jammable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You do not stiffen that front elbow till after contact. That's when it's stiffened. That makes sense? Okay. So now take your hands, put them in the power zone. Now push them back and straighten the front elbow. That's wrong. You'll get kids like that. Take your hands, put them down here. Man, if I had $100 for every kid in camp I saw go here and then hit, I would be a multi-billionaire. That is the most common thing I get, is dropping the hands on this right. You ever seen it yet? Okay. At least you'll see it now that you know to look for it. Okay? So, the hand should stay right in this power zone. Okay? Now, F says bat at a 45-degree angle. You guys can sit down now if you want. Bat at a 45-degree angle. Now, I'm giving you some parameters, okay? The bat at a 45-degree angle simply means this. This is 90, this is 0, that's 45. 50, 60, 35, but I wouldn't go 90. How come? Let me explain this. Take your fist and put it right out in front of you. That's the fastball right there, okay? Grandpa likes it about waist high, about 65. Now, everybody listen right now, because this goes with something else. If I'm going to hit a line drive, you ever heard flat wrist? Palm up, palm down? Okay, you've heard that. Now, when I was a little kid in my dad's office, I'm 6 years old and 7 years old and 8-year-old and 9-year-old, and I'm done with my homework, my dad's showing this, he's evaluating his office, and I go and sit down because my dad was my hero, man. I'd have gone off a cliff. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching Super 8 film, he's like, T-Bone, that was my nickname. Look at his stride. Look at his back heel. Little did I know that he was putting all this information in my head, so I was doing camps later, and I could decide. I mean, I should say thanks, Dad. Now, way back in the day, he used to say to me, Tom, when you make contact, you should go set a cup of coffee on this wrist and don't spill it. You should go set a cup of coffee on this wrist and don't spill it. Put your fist out. This is how I hit a line drive. It's right there. Can you guys all see my hand?
Yeah.
If I go here before contact, what am I going to hit?
Ground ball.
Ground ball. I'm going over the top. If the ball's waist high and that top hand drops under here, what am I going to hit? Pop up. Have you noticed launch angles now disappearing, those words? Those are horrible words. Nobody says them anymore because it made everybody start dropping an uppercut and launch angle. What the heck is that? If they could just put, oh man, I don't want to say this. If they could just put Cody Bellinger in Freeman's swing, he would be a Triple Crown winner, Hall of Famer. He got more talent than Freeman's got. Bellinger is loaded with talent, but his swing is not. Freeman's got the simplest, quicker. He is so fast on the backside of the ball. That's why he can wait so long. He is so quick to contact. Short on the backside, long on the front side. Let's get back to flat wrist. Now, if I'm going to make contact in a line drive, it's right there. Do you guys believe me? I didn't invent it, but that's true. Give me a low ball. Look at how my wrists are flat. You see that? Same thing. Just that. Give me one about here. Right there. I'm going to hit it there. Now, give me one waist high. So I'm going to hit it there. Now, watch. I'm just going to bring my hands back to a position. Watch. Just watch. Now watch. See how quick to the ball that is? So if a Little League coach is screaming at a kid, get the back elbow up, get the barrel up, is he helping him or hurting him? Which one? Okay, give me a waist high pitch. Watch, you get from here to there. I got to go here at the very start. What is the barrel doing? Dropping. If you understand that, put your hand there. Now, you will see some guys like this in the big league. Let me tell you something. When the foot lands, where's the hand?
Back.
What position are they? Remember Chef used to do this? And I would go to games, and my wife would sit there, and she'd believe it or not, I'm blessed. I have a wife that all this other stuff, when his foot landed, he was right there. Bam, right to the ball. That just makes sense. Stride is number 2. Stride. What's the first word? Short. I'm sorry, yeah. A is short. What's the next word? What's the next word? Perfect. Short, sideways, still. Now, stride should be 1 to 2 inches. 3 at the most. Why do we want our stride to be short? Now, see if you say, hey guys, let's get our feet apart and have our stride short, and the kid says, why? I'm not expecting you to know the answer. Let me give it to you. The stride needs to be short so the head stays still. So the center of the body stays still. Short stride means the center of the body stays still. Now, a lot of people think that the stride gives you more power. Well, if that was true, why don't golfers take a stride? I mean, you know, speed those guys can hit at 330 down the fairway, right? What if they could hit at 380 with a stride? Now it's become a 3-part game. Where's the power? Their hips and their hands. How can a guy who's 5'8", weighs 175 pounds, hit 300 yards? It's a gift. Not everybody can do it. It's a gift. It's like if you could teach somebody to throw 100 miles an hour, you'd be a billionaire. It's a gift. I mean, Ohtani's got gifts, guys, we don't have. You seen him run? He was the fastest from home to first base. Fastest in the big leagues last year. Wow. Guy is gifted. Now, the stride needs to be short so the center of the body stays still. Now you say, well, some guys are lifting. That's cool. When they pick it up and set it down, how far to go? Yeah, 2 to 3 inches. They don't go 10 inches. They don't go like this, way out there. They don't. One thing in the big leagues, because the game is so fast, at the front edge of home plate, it is so fast, the body has to stay still. Why does it have to stay still? So the barrel can get out here. If my body moves forward, the barrel stays behind me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a short stride will create more bat speed because the barrel can get going and get through the body. Watch, if I take a short stride, the barrel can get from here to there. That's where Freeman is so great, from here to there. He's quick on the backside, long on the front side. You do not want to be long on the backside and short on the front. We okay?
Yeah.
Now, I'm giving you information, but I'm trying to give it to you at advanced level too. I'm trying to do both. Does that make sense? So Freddie, man, he just sits still, and those hands are quick to the ball. Plus, he uses the whole field a little bit. Yeah. They're saying, well, let's get rid of the shift. Why don't the guys start hitting the ball the other way?
Right. Yeah.
Because they get paid for hitting 30 home runs. And if you hit 30, the check's about 17, 18 million. If you hit 30. If you hit 2 times with 30 home runs, you'll pay 20 million. Sideways. Now, what does sideways mean? All right. You're the pitcher, so I'm going to get the home plate lined up, okay? You're pitching to me. Sideways means 2 things. Number 1, I'm striding at you, not away. And secondly, when I'm landing, my foot is sideways. Simple, right?
Yeah.
Why do I want to land sideways? I'm not trying to make you feel like you don't know the answer. I'm playing the kid. You're the coach, so you got to ask. Because if some kid says, why do I land sideways? Great, here's the answer. You ready? 2 reasons. Number 1, if I land sideways, I still got my hips to use. If I land open, I've let my hips go. I've lost power, bat speed. Make sense? Here's the other reason. If I land sideways and the ball's coming at me, I'll turn here. If I land open and the ball's coming at me, I'm playing dodgeball. Cool?
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
Because I want you to give a reason. The kids will engage with you. It's good. Okay? All right. Next one is still, heads and hands, right? Okay, now, circle the word hands. Man, oh man, is this a big one? Okay, now, when I stride, my head, which is the center of my body, should stay still. It's kind of the axis everything's going to rotate around. Does that make sense? So if the head moves forward when I stride, That's going to make the bat stay behind me, which is going to make me slower to the ball. Does that make sense? That's why guys in the big leagues can't do this, because 98 becomes 107. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they got to keep that center of their body still. So they got to kind of let the ball get to them, which is hard to do when it's going 100 miles an hour because you panic to go to it. Okay? Now, the hands need to stay still. When I take my stride, my hands should stay still. If they're going to do anything, lift them an inch or two. Most common thing you're going to see, I'm sure you've seen it, is you're going to get this.
Yep.
You're going to get this. Or you're going to get this. Or you're going to get this. Watch the barrel. You get one of those three. Okay? Questions? You okay?
Yep.
Okay. Hip rotation, number 3, hip rotation equals what? Which equals what? Power. Front knee stiffens while the back knee heel rotates to 90 degrees. Roll on the side of the front ankle. Now, write this somewhere. And you can shorten it if you want. Power is not how far I hit the ball. Power is not how far I hit the ball. You got that so far? Power is how hard I hit the ball. Power is not how far, power is how hard I hit the ball. Does that make sense? So if I'm playing shortstop and I'm going, hey, bada, bada, hey, bada, bada, hey, bada, bada, hit a line drive, I'm like, man, I'm glad that wasn't that, man, would have killed me. And it's a one hopper to left field, that ball had power. If I hit a one hopper back to the pitcher, ball had power. Whenever I was coaching college and a batter in his first at bat hit a one hopper back to the pitcher and ran the ball out and came by me, I'd shake my hand and say, you got a great day today, man, just keep it up. Next one's going right through his ear hole. You guys remember a guy named George Foster?
Yeah.
Played for the Cincinnati Reds, big red machine. Rose, right, bench, George. George hit fourth. He was the first player in the major leagues to take big money. I got the job at El Camino College, oh my gosh, in 1983. 84, after I got done with 3 years with Azusa Pacific. And a guy named Cornelius Foster was on the team at El Camino. And somebody told me early, said, George is his uncle. I said, what'd you say? He said, George Foster's uncle. I said, you kidding me? He said, no. And I said, he'll show up one day to watch porn. Now, George, I mean, this was, it's like, I don't know, trout walking in. I mean, honest to God, George Foster he was big time. And he showed up at practice one day. And I almost beat my pants. And they said he's really nice. So I walked over and said, hi, George. I said, I'm Tom Hicks, Orange County coach. He said, hi, Tom, I've heard good things about you. I'm like, oh, he wants to talk. So I'm standing there talking to George about hitting, and practice is running, and it's going, and it was self-sufficient. Guys knew what to do. And I started talking to George about hitting, and he started opening up. And I said to him, I said, George, when you're struggling and you're having a tough day, what adjustments do you make? I thought he could not answer. I thought I might get an answer, and I got a great answer. You know what he said? The best power hitter in the game at that time. He said, I step out, and I step in, and he said, I try and hit the pitcher in the forehead with a baseball. I called timeout. I brought the whole team over. I said, this is George Foster. A lot of kids didn't know who he was, so they didn't know. He was, a baseball god to me. And I said, George just said that when he's struggling, he said, and I'm having a rough day, the next at bat or the next pitch, I step in and I try and hit the pitcher in the forehead with a baseball. Where on God's earth is that going? Everybody's trying to hit the guy in the bleachers with the ball. Not Freddie. Freddie keeps that nose right down on the ball. That's why he's such a great hitter. You guys know who Bobby Grich is?
Yes. Angels.
Bobby Grich played for the Angels. He was an all-star second baseman. I got invited to a clinic at Wilson High way back in the 80s, and Bobby Grich played at Wilson. He comes and talks. Now, this pertains to the hitting. I'm not trying to drop names on you like I know everybody. And Bobby Grich is talking about hitting. And so there's about 50 kids there and coaches, so I'm just brave enough. I put my hand up and said, Bobby, I said, do you make any adjustments when it gets to 2 strikes? He goes, yeah. Honest to God, if I had a film of this, it went like this. He said, yeah, He said, I just widen my stance a little bit, I choke up a little bit, and I try and make hard contact with the ball. I said, wow, that's great. And then you know what he said? Just off the cuff, he goes, I hit better with 2 strikes. Sometimes I wonder why I don't do that all the time. Fast speed equals power. Now, I can only do this once because I'm coming off of sciatica, but when I stride, that front knee stiffens, so this hip gets out of the way, I roll on that ankle, and I pop that back heel up. Remember Henry Aaron? He used to drag it. If I pop that back heel up, that pushes this hip through. If I stiffen the front knee, it gets this out of the way, and I roll on that ankle. You watch those guys in big leagues, and they all got that going. Sometimes they'll even think about swinging, get right about here, and that heel's already coming up, because they know if they don't get those hips going, the ball's too fast. Does that make sense? Okay. Number 4, swing level, no uppercut. Now, you guys tell me which swing's an uppercut. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Last one's an uppercut. How about this? And he's old enough to dialogue with these like 10 or 11 or 12 or 14. You say, man, do you ever feel like you're right on the ball and you swing right through it? He'll go, yeah. You know why he swings right through it? He's not playing with it. As soon as you get him in playing with it, he starts making contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I said to you, was this an uppercut? You said, yeah. If a guy's an uppercutter, where do you not pitch him? Low, because he'll get to that one. So where do you pitch him?
High.
Because he'll swing right through it. So an uppercutter, you throw him up here and he'll swing right through it. Don't throw him down there, because he'll go get that one. Are you with me?
Yes.
So how do I get rid of the uppercut? Pull the front elbow what? Down, and back heel to level the shoulder. You got it. Now the kid's right here, and the pitcher's right here, and he starts down with that front elbow or down with that knob. He can't uppercut because he's keeping the barrel above the hands back here. Are you with me? And then if he pops that back heel, this doesn't drop, so the body's level, the swing's area is come out level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I had kids who uppercut it, I'd give them homework. You ever give your kids homework? Like, I want you to do this 20 times at home before the next practice. And before you send them home to do it, make sure they're doing it right. So if I had a bunch of uppercutters, I'd have them go home 20 times and swing at high pitches and finish level across the back here. The only way I can get here is I came through their level. Does that make sense? Number 5, A says shoulder to shoulder with my chin. Would you on that line, please write front side in. They're not after us, right? Front side in. Here's a great drill, my friend. Shoulder to shoulder with my chin. Why? When I take my stride, my chin is at my front shoulder, and when I swing, it stays in there until the back shoulder comes. That makes sense. Shoulder to shoulder with my chin. I played for a guy in Long Beach City College my father, that took baseballs and put about quarter-sized dots on each panel. He'd make red ones, black ones, green ones, blue ones. And he'd throw batting with those balls. You had to call the color. Red, blue, green, black. Made you follow the ball to contact. Interesting, huh? Back elbow, I already talked about that, right? Back elbow not way up here, elbow somewhere here, not way down here, but not way up here. Don't let him get away up there. Somewhere in here that's comfortable. And I kind of covered that when I did that other thing, right? Remember here, then it came back here, my elbow somewhere about here. Number 7, extension. Finish the swing. Fear of failure, swing through the ball, not to the ball. Do you have any kids that swing about halfway? You have any kids that don't finish the swing all the way?
Right.
Let me tell you why they're not finishing it. They're trying to make contact. They're scared to swing and miss. Because all the friends are there, parents are there, and they don't want to swing and miss because it represents failure. So on Wednesday in our camp, we have a go for it day where we tell the kids, it's okay to swing and miss. We want your best bat speed. We want you to hit that ball. We want you to mean business. So we got to get these kids swinging through the ball, not to the ball. Does that make sense? That's just bat speed. That's just a concept. Then it talks about how to avoid a pitch, but then there's words up, down, up, and down, up, down. I do want to get the practice planning next, so we're going to get paper and get the clipboard stuff. If I was going to summarize hitting, those words do it. Up, down, up versus down, up, down. Okay, listen. If you get the kid in a pretty good stance, and he's got some ability, and he just does down, up, down, or up, down, up, he's got to do one of those. Circle the first one. That's the one he wants to do. Up, down, up. He doesn't want to do the other one, down, up, down. He wants to do the first one now. Now, but listen, if you get him in a decent stance, a good stance to begin with, and he's got some athletic ability, and he goes up, down, up, he'll hit. What's the first up? Watch me. When he strides, the hands stay up. So put that by that up, hands. Hands stay up. Okay? What's the next word? Down, right?
Yeah.
So when he's going to hit the ball, he keeps his hands here, and when he starts to hit, he pulls slightly downward, not to the ground, just downward here, not upward here. It's in the front elbow. So if he keeps his hands up, he pulls slightly down. What's the third word? Down. Everybody with me? So the first word is up. That's the hands. The first word down is the front elbow. The next down is the nose. You writing this down? You getting it? I know I'm going fast. What was the first up? It was what?
Hands.
Hands. What's the first down?
Elbow. Front elbow.
Front elbow. What's the next down?
Nose.
Nose. And then the last one is up. That's the back heel. Back heel. Watch. In slow motion. I hope one of you got an extra bedroom, because when I hurt my sciatica doing this clinic today, my wife said, don't come home. So I got an extra bedroom for a weekend. All right. But if I stride here, and when I go to swing, my hands stay up, I pull slowly down, slightly down with the elbow, I keep my nose down, and I get that back heel up. If I got some talent, I'm going to hit. Now, what's the opposite? Down, up, down. Here's what kids will do. Watch. This is wrong. Down. Then the front elbow goes up to get out of it. So we go here. Then my nose goes here, and my back heel stays down. I will not hit. It's not a whole lot more complicated than that. Does anybody have any quick questions?
One quick one. How important is it? I see they make contact with the ball, but they don't finish.
And I'll always have kids come by me and say, thank you, Grandpa, for that story. And if there's a grandfather standing over there, he'll walk over to me 100% of the time. He said, Tom, could we get that done in schools in America? It's not abuse, it's asking for it. I don't think we're asking enough from kids today. You want my opinion? I don't think we are. Anybody else agree with that? There is a lot more in the tank than we're asking for. You just can't be abusive. I never curse at a kid. I never call him names. I will raise my voice occasionally when I really want something done. We're not doing a good enough job. I want a better job. You guys got more than this. It's my camp, not yours. Let's get it going. Let's do our best. That's how I talk to them. And they respond. And yes, there's 6-year-olds sitting there. But that's okay. Okay? And I'm very loving with the kids. I high-five them. I give them hugs. Sign T-shirts. But it's my way or the highway. And that's okay. Proper length per age. Practice regularly. Invest in equipment. And the child's their best coach. Emphasize to kids that you'll only get out of practice what you put in it, okay? Now, you got some paper there? All right, here we go. Sample practice plan. We're going to start laying it out. Now, set those pages aside, get the paper in front of you, and here's what I want you to do. When is your next practice? I would start with a date at the top. I would either write October 5th, or I'd put 10/5/22. I'd put the date right at the top in the center. Or on the left, I don't care, but I put the date of the practice. Why? So you know what you did 3 practices ago. Okay? Now, my goal would be that if you can't make practice and you called me and you said, hey, I'll drop the practice plan by, you would hand it to me and have an idea what you're doing. It's kind of like a teacher, leaving some kind of a plan for the substitute teacher. Say no way to drugs because it'll ruin my life, destroy my body, and not make others proud of me. And I will pause and the kids are screaming. I choose to say in there, 240 kids, no way! 2. They'll go drugs. I'll say, 2 what? They'll go drugs. They're screaming. Then I turn the mic to Beanstalk and say, let's have a great day, let's go. So I'll demonstrate a couple girls, we go. I get them on fire, I get them woke up. What I expect. Yesterday we had a great day, but I want more from you guys today. Grandpa's chasing your soul today. Let's go. I'm going to challenge you today. Let's go. Let's get after it. So I set the tempo for camp right away. Does that make sense? Okay. So practice orientation. I've got team announcements. maybe it's the previous game. Maybe you had a game on Sunday and now you practice on Tuesday, and you want to talk about 2 or 3 things from the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You guys have meetings after your games? Like have a quick meeting? Listen to me. A wise old guy, Joe Hicks, told me. He said, don't give them more than about 2 or 3 things after game, because after 2 or 3, they'll forget everything. Just the 2 or 3 things that are important. And maybe you give them those after the game. Say, hey, we did a good job, and here's 3 things we can get better at. Then, maybe on Tuesday, start the practice with the 3 things you ended there on Sunday. Hey, can anybody remember the 3 things I said? And maybe tell them after the game on Sunday, hey, I'm going to ask you these 3 at the start of practice on Tuesday. I want to see if anybody can remember these 3 things. I don't know what they are. We can communicate better on defense. Okay? We can run faster and harder on the bases. We can do a better job of encouraging each other. We can use 2 hands better on defense. I don't know what it is. That makes sense? Okay. And if it gets by you, it's 10 jumping jacks. You got to dive. You got to knock it down. You got to sell yourself. We call it bodying up. And then, if it gets by you and it gets by those guys, it's 20 jumping jacks for the whole team. So they're the backup guys who are going to body up. I'm telling you, the kids' uniforms are dirty. They're screaming and hollering, and we're teaching them how to leave their feet, body up on the ball, knock it down, sell out. Questions? Now, about 3 more minutes, thank you. Don't be scared to try a drill. Don't be scared to get creative. Don't be scared to get the kids dirty. Don't be scared to challenge kids. Yes. The kids are old enough to handle hardball. Yeah, 11 or 12 kids. Yeah, body up. First day we do it, though, we use flexies with everybody. Because we want somebody, we do it like 3 days in a row. And then what happens is we're playing over the line and kids are diving and stuff. It's like really cool. We give away a ball in camp every day, 2 of them, base hit bandit. It's colored red, don't you do this. We put base hit bandit on it. And it's a kid that stole a base hit and over the line or in the game. He sold out, he dove, made a backhand and play something. What we're going to do this year and over the line, you guys want over the line? You got to break the spirit, then that horse becomes something. You got to guide that kid, direct that kid. Gets out of line, back in line, let's go. I didn't say you break them down, they feel abused, beat up, but we're going this way now. Everybody follow me. And I want your best effort. Let's go. I'm in charge. Let's go. One day you'll be old enough to be in charge, so let's go. Every wonderful man I've ever met that's successful had a role model, someone in their lives that they looked up to. I'm asking you to be it. Does that make sense? I'm encouraging you. I'm asking you to get after it. All right, any questions? I mean, you can continue the lesson plan, right? Kind of explain there, but you kind of got the idea now. I mean, it could have took 2 hours to lay out a practice, but I wanted to do more than that. Does anybody have any quick questions about anything? You know, I'm just not going to go past 11:30 because I heard some of you guys say this is 11:30 now. Any questions about any skill in baseball real quick? Okay. You have a clipboard, you have rubber bands, you have the outline I gave you, you got some practice planning, and I just encourage you to teach, to love on the kids, have fun with the kids, but have discipline. Discipline is okay. It is healthy. Okay? Thanks, guys, for being here.
Thank you.
Good
job, man.
By the way, if anybody says, hey, Tom Hicks